When you see or think of a super fast character, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Most likely, your answer was the Flash. And it's no coincidence. The Flash has become such a huge character, an icon of pop culture and synonymous with speed. So, as expected, the Flash has also gained his share of blatant copycats over the years. It was obvious that various publishers would want to create their own speedsters, and not just comic book publishers. The Flash is so influential that even outside the world of comics, others have wanted to copy him. So let's dive in and find out together which characters are the most blatant Flash copycats. Blur. Blur is part of the Marvel Comics Squadron Supreme. He is a direct analog to the Flash within this universe. Squadron Supreme is essentially Marvel's version of the Justice League, and Blur, as the speedster of the team, mirrors many aspects of the Flash, from his powers to his role on the team. The key ingredient to be considered a Flash copycat is to have a superhuman speed. So it's obvious that Blur has an above-average speed. Otherwise, it wouldn't even make sense to put him on the list. His speed also allows him to perform feats such as running across water, creating vortexes, and even traveling through time. Just like our beloved Scarlet Speedster. Both characters wear red costumes, which is a common visual motif for speedsters, thanks to the Flash obviously. Blur's origin stories sometimes involve science, such as gaining his powers through experiments or advanced technology, similar to how Flash gained his powers from a lab accident involving chemicals and lightning. Besides super speed, both characters often have related powers like enhanced reflexes, accelerated healing, and the ability to vibrate their molecules to phase through solid objects. I think you get the point. Blur is simply one of the most blatant Flash copycats on the list. End of the discussion. Dash. I believe many of you are familiar with this character, as he's part of the Incredibles universe and the son of Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. Like every member of his family, Dash has a superpower, and his is super speed. He's an incredibly fast speedster who wears a red suit. He runs so fast that he can even run on water without worrying about falling, and he moves so quickly that ordinary people can't see him. It almost feels like I'm describing the Flash. However, Dash is still just a child with a lot of potential, and he's clearly not yet on the same speed level as the Flash. Let's say he's the child version of the Flash. Maybe one day, or perhaps in the upcoming The Incredibles 3 movie, which is slated to release, he'll reach that level. As a speedster whose name even rhymes with Flash, Dash, Flash, and the fact that he is also blonde, just like Barry Allen. So yes, I think he definitely deserves a spot on this list. Speed Demon. Now, this one makes more sense to be quite similar to the Flash. Why? Because this character came about in a crossover between Marvel and DC Comics that created fusions of various heroes, like Spider-Man and Superboy, or Captain America and Superman. But one of the most unlikely fusions was that of Ghost Rider and the Flash. And wow, what a powerful combination. These two characters possess virtually unlimited powers, making them one of the most formidable fusions. In this story, Speed Demon was Blaze Allen, a stuntman who made a deal with a demon and kept gaining more and more power until he became the Demon of Speed. Oh, and he also gained a sidekick that many of you might know. Yes, Wally West. He literally has Flash's traits in his DNA. There's no escaping it. Being a more blatant copycat than him is impossible, because he even copied the Flash's genetics. Isn't that enough for you to consider him a copycat? Silver Streak. This one is pretty old, having debuted in the golden age of comics, just 2 months after the first Flash, who at the time was Jay Garrick. This timing tells us that Silver Streak was heavily inspired by the Flash, following the trend of speedster characters popular at that time. He was a nameless driver who was taken by a cult leader to race in high-speed competitions. However, he died in an accident, and that same leader brought him back to life, granting him super speed powers. Just like the Flash, he gained his powers through an unusual mean, involving a transformation or experiment that resulted in his super speed. While the Flash typically gains his powers through scientific or mystical means, depending on the version. He then began his fight against criminals, becoming a hero, just like the Flash, though he didn't appear much. And despite being a copy of the Flash, he was quite slow compared to the real deal. Silver Streak isn't very well known, as he didn't last long due to being an obvious copy of the Flash, and people didn't really appreciate that fact. McQueen. I know what you may be thinking, but just hear me out. I promise it makes sense that McQueen is on this list. First of all, this character is the Scarlet Speedster of his universe. Where do you think that idea came from? See, I'm not crazy. Initially, McQueen was very selfish, only caring about the trophy and the glory it would bring him. Yes, I know the Flash isn't like that. However, after accidentally ending up in a small town and meeting other cars, he slowed down a bit and realized there are more important things than victory. Besides being a speedster, another thing he shares with the Flash is his deep care for his friends, and even his desire to help his enemies or rivals. We've seen him lose some races for both of these reasons. Furthermore, the characters around him also seem to mirror those who surround the Flash. And the lightning bolt on his design also reminds me a lot of someone. I wouldn't say he's one of the most blatant copycats, because he's not. He actually has many unique and different characteristics, but the similarities between them can't be denied. It's clear that McQueen's creators drew a lot of inspiration from the Flash when creating him. So, please don't deny it. Whizzer. Jay Garrick, aka The Flash, debuted in the comics in 1940. while Whizzer made his first appearance just 1 year later, in 1941. And if there's one thing I've learned making this copycat videos, it's that when characters debut around the same time, it's very likely that one was inspired by the other. Of course, I'm not saying this happens in every case, but in situations like Whizzer's, it does seem a bit suspicious that a speedster character debuted just 1 year after the Flash appeared. A bit of a coincidence, right? Especially considering that the concept of a speedster back then wasn't as well known as it is today. But, of course, thanks to the Flash, that changed. The Whizzer was another Marvel attempt to create a successful speedster in their comics. Whizzer can run at incredible velocities, allowing him to move faster than the eye can see and perform various feats associated with speed, such as dodging bullets and creating vortexes. Whizzer's costume has a similarity with Flash costume that clearly confirms that he was indeed inspired by Jay Garrick's Flash. Both characters occupy a similar niche within their respective superhero teams and stories as the resident speedster. Additionally, both characters' origins involve gaining their speed powers through accidents. The Flash gained his powers after being struck by lightning and doused in chemicals, while Whizzer received a transfusion of mongoose blood, which granted him his speed abilities. His spot on this list is totally justified. This video is a reminder that without the Flash, your favorite speedster might never have been created, although the Flash is probably your favorite speedster anyway.